Hey there, and welcome back to another Moon Knight review. And today we'll be talking about the latest episode to drop, Summon the Suit, which pretty much picks up right from where we left off in episode 1, with Mark taking control of the body, turning into Moon Knight to kill the Jackal thing, and then the fallout this is going to have on Steven's life. And during last episode's review, I talked a little bit about how I was apprehensive going forward with this show, and that despite the first episode being really good, I was worried they wouldn't be able to properly pull off the darker elements of the character's backstory and life, whilst also counterbalancing it with the typical humour you see in Marvel stuff. But honestly, I think I was wrong. Completely wrong. Because this second episode, in my opinion, was even better than the first. It had good action, interesting plot points, a lot of reveals, as well as setting up even more mysteries to unravel over the course of the show. But anyway, with all that being said, let's jump into the review. And we start off the episode with Steven waking up screaming in his bed, as of course the last thing he remembers is getting mauled by the Jackal just as he gave Mark control. In the meantime though, it seems like Mark's killed the thing, walked him home, cleaned him up, put him to bed, and tried to make it seem like nothing had happened at all. Like Steven's just crazy and that nothing out of the ordinary is happening. And I know he's probably desperate to keep Steven in the dark, but come on. Seems like a bit of a dick move, especially with what goes down at the museum. As Steven then arrives and notices the damage and realises that everything that happened was real. And so then we have to endure a truly cringy scene where Steven keeps hyping up to the security guard what he's going to see on the security camera, only for the monster to just not appear, and for it to look like Steven vandalized the toilet. And this is such a cruel move from Mark, ouch. He's gotten this poor guy fired and made him look like a complete psycho. And on top of that, he's now made him feel like he's gone insane. Although, I guess it is nice that the museum declines to press charges as long as he pays for the damage, and they even give him therapy options, so it's nice, I guess. If anything, this whole opening sequence was just very sad. It's a very heart-wrenching scene, and the acting's honestly phenomenal. The grief and resignation in Steven's face is really well done, so props to Oscar Isaac. And I liked the little double meaning from the HR rep telling him that he isn't alone as well. I just found that a touch amusing. But anyway, after a talk with the living statue man again, and this poor dude, he has to panic every time this crazy man comes to sit down with him, he decides that he wants to follow up on the things he found in his flat, to try and see what the hell is going on with his life. So he goes around looking for the storage locker, to which he has a key, apparently going to 5 different branches before he finds the one where the guard recognises him and lets him in. And it's at this point that the plot really starts to pick up, and Steven finds out that this is where Mark keeps his things, with his passport, his guns, fat stacks of cash, and of course, the scarab that he had in that little town in the Austrian Alps. Rightfully freaked out, Steven begins to panic hard before Mark makes contact via mirror again and tries to calm him down and tell him that he needs to give him the body so he can get things done, and that he'll leave him alone after that. That only he can save them, and then he promises he'll go. Also revealing that he's the avatar of the Egyptian god of the moon, Khonshu. Steven, understandably, does not react well to the lunacy being spouted by the man in the mirror and panics and runs before being confronted by Khonshu himself. And then he pretty much pisses his pants and runs away again, eventually stumbling across Layla, who tracked his phone. And I really loved this scene. A cross between comedy and drama and horror. It was both creepy and thrilling. And it was also hilarious at the same time. And I really loved the soundtrack for this scene. It got me hyped up for what's essentially just a man running through some storage lockers. It's not that complex, but the soundtrack enhanced it so much. Anyway, back to Layla. Turns out she's actually Mark's wife, which turns out to be quite awkward for Steven. And we have a scene in his apartment, which is one part sad, as we see that Mark is trying to leave her to keep her safe from Khonshu's schemes, and that she's feeling quite sad and betrayed and angry. But the scene's also one part touching, as it's clear that the Steven personality's taken elements of her life that Mark knew about and incorporated them into his own, like reading and understanding ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics and engaging with her favourite poetry. Also, side note, in this scene, Layla pulls an asshole move and taps the glass of the fish tank. Pfft, that's a no-no, Layla. Come on, you'll scare the fish. Anyway, they sort of begin to bond, but it's clear that Layla thinks he's faking not knowing anything about his past life. And then she gets doubly mad because apparently they'd worked together to try and find the scarab, and she thinks he stole it for himself. Also, she has divorce papers for him to sign, so that's a bummer. So I'm not really sure where this is going, to be honest. Is it unethical for her to have a romance with Mark's alter ego? Are they going to share a wife? They are technically the same person as they do share a brain. But also, they're still two separate individuals with their own personality, life, experiences, and memories. So already, this is kind of getting complicated. But since I'm a drama queen, I love it. Moving on though, from here, Steven gets a visit from some detectives who basically immediately arrest him and cart him away, revealing that Mark is an international fugitive and that he murdered some archaeologists. But I'm gonna guess that these archaeologists were actually minions of Harrow, so probably less black and white than what the detectives actually said. And since the world, of course, likes to shit on Steven's life, it turns out these detectives aren't even really detectives at all, or if they are, they're members of Harrow's cult, and they deliver him straight to Arthur. And at this point, Mark tries to take control again, but Steven fights him off, telling him that he's a murderer and a monster. And fair enough, if I discovered that I had an alter ego who was an international terrorist, I too would hesitate in letting them take control of the body that we share. We then get to the meat of the episode, where Arthur tries to manipulate Steven into basically joining the cause and giving up the scarab, showing him all the good that their philosophies achieved, with people learning new languages and engaging with the community, feeling safe to leave their doors unlocked at night and walking the streets without fear. And all because they've stripped away the evil from their little micro-society by destroying threats before they can even arise. And honestly, I get it. Yeah, he's an insane cultist piece of shit who murders people, but I can understand on some level the appeal of his philosophy. Whereas Moon Knight and Khonshu advocate for punishing those who have done wrong, probably through lethal means, it's more revenge, not justice. So I can understand how you can convince people that that is not right. And I also loved how soft-spoken Harrow is. It's like he's luring you in, seducing you with his promises. Even engaging with Steven as a person, knowing he's a vegan and bonding with him over lentil soup, showing Steven how he interacts with everybody in the community as an equal. It's a really good performance. One of my favourite Marvel villains already, I think. It's nice to see a villain who's not evil for the sake of being greedy or something like that. He has goals and dreams that he wants to see through that drive his actions beyond material goals. It makes him very intriguing. Although, Steven does have a nice comeback for all of this, about the whole child murder thing and how condoning that is all manner of messed up. Because he is right on that score, because whilst Khonshu's philosophy is obviously flawed, so is Amit's. It removes the power of choice and assumes that all choices are predetermined, that somebody is always going to be destined to be either good or bad. There's no grey area. And so I think that's where the philosophy falls apart completely. But yeah, of course, it all eventually does go to shit, and Layla turns up to save the day, whilst Harrow summons another jackal to kill them, which eventually results in Mark trying to get Steven to give up the body, and Layla trying to coach Steven into using the suit. And the way she interacts with him in this scene, being so kind to him and trying to calm him down, I'm guessing she was listening into the conversation with Harrow, and she knows what's going on now, or at least she thinks he must have some pretty severe amnesia, because otherwise she's playing along pretty well. But anyway, the jackal bursts into the room and launches him out the window, with Steven finally managing to summon the suit, which looks different to Mark's version, being described as Psycho Colonel Sanders in the best line of the episode. And then the jackal reappears and beats him down a little before Steven goes full 1940s cartoon, taking off his jacket, rolling up his sleeves and squaring up like, "Oh, I know." And he actually does pretty well for a while until he gets clapped and has to give full control to Mark to make sure that nobody else gets hurt. Mark then transforms into his version of Moon Knight and goes on an Assassin's Creed-esque free run through London before impaling the beast and killing it, before realising, he lost the scarab. And of course we see a quick cut of Arthur murdering some poor dude who found it. And I mean, did he even do the thing where he judges them first? Or did he just straight up kill them? Because if he just straight up killed him, well, I actually kind of like it, because it shows his whole philosophy is full of shit, and so is he. Anyway, back to Mark. We see that Steven is now the one talking through mirrors, describing how awful it feels to be locked in like that, and trying to take control back, but failing. With Mark telling him that forcing control is almost impossible, because it takes all you have just to stay conscious. Man, that sounds like a nightmare. It truly sucks. Anyway, they argue, Mark loses his temper and smashes the mirror, and so obviously things are not going to be hunky-dory with those two anytime soon. Khonshu then flies down and tells Mark about how Harrow has the scarab and threatens to make Layla his next avatar, because, you know, that's the best way to inspire loyalty, threatening your subordinates. And then they're off to Egypt to find Amit's tomb, and Mark has smashed up his room because he's angry. So likely, he is not going to be too stable a character, I think. I feel like he's going to be a lot more unpredictable than Steven, who seems to embody everything that Mark wants to be. Every trait that Mark finds admirable is likely reflected in Steven. He loves his mum and always calls her. He's interested in things that Layla likes. He's anti-violence, he's vegan. He has a standard 9-to-5 life with a home and a chance to live in peace. Really, that sounds like an ideal world for somebody like Mark. But yeah, anyway, he opens up the curtain of his room to show a very green screened in Egyptian cityscape, complete with pyramids, as the episode ends. And so yeah, great episode. Lots happened, lots of answers, and lots of questions. And I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. But anyway, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Do you like it, hate it, find it boring? How did you find the pacing of the show so far? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.